Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Ninja Gaiden Compared on Normal, Chapter 4. In the last part, I alluded to one of my favorite in-game cutscenes throughout all of Ninja Gaiden. Something that captured my mind, my imagination as a young man, and really, ponders, it poses the question, how does Ryu not get electrocuted here? And we'll never know. I mean, it took me a great deal of years to find out. And it's pretty simple. It's because he doesn't touch the ground. Alright, to start off, one thing I'd like to point your attention to is Sigma and Sigma Plus are both about to get a tutorial dialogue of Ayane essentially telling you where to go, Hans Bar. And Sigma Plus, there's no voiceover. I keep driving at this, there's no voiceover for this character that's already been recorded in Sigma and Ninja Gaiden Black. All signs point to the fact that this Sigma Plus is, of course, a port of the Vita version. And maybe those particular, maybe they lost the audio. I mean, we hear so much about the original source material for Ninja Gaiden itself and Ninja Gaiden Black being lost, which is incredible to think of in today's day and age of cloud backing up. But I guess back in the day it was just as simple as somebody losing a hard drive. Let's again focus back in. We have a variety of different weapons in the different games at this point. You'll see that in Ninja Gaiden, we just have the Dragon Sword and the Wooden Sword. In Ninja Gaiden Black, we've got the Lunar since Chapter 2. In Ninja Gaiden Sigma and Sigma Plus, we have the dual-wielded Tiger Fang and Dragon's Claw. Or is it Dragon's Fang and Tiger's Claw? I never remember. Dragon's Claw and Tiger's Fang. That's what we have. Now, we're about to get the Lunar in Sigma and Sigma Plus. And in Ninja Gaiden Black, across all the versions, we'll be getting one additional weapon as well. Arguably one of the worst weapons in the game, but core to the identity of the ninja. Thank you, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. You will forever be appreciated in how you changed the modernization of the ninja. Jokes aside, let's focus again in on one of these first areas where we have a wide open space and just not many enemies inside. I think that this will become kind of an interesting point for Ninja Gaiden, where what it wants to do is establish a space, get you used to the idea of fighting in it, and then it will probably want you to return to these spaces to execute maybe a bigger fight. And I really think that this is core to the game. When it comes to this level in particular, and as we continue through the chapter, I should say, the chapters, what we're going to be seeing is a kind of de-incentivization of exploration. We're going to be seeing people being punished, players being punished for not knowing what's around the next corner and trying to essentially greed their way, right? Being overconfident, overzealous. It's a completely different paradigm for experiencing exploration in the game, especially by the conventions. Punishing a player for trying to find all the collectibles, right, doesn't seem appropriate. You should be rewarding them, you should be enhancing it, but in it, you're really testing metal, you're refining your skills, and I think the game really plays into the fact that it's hard, you need to be better, and everything that you do, though it feels like losing, is trying to improve you, is trying to make you a better player in this game space. In particular, I think that's why this game holds up so well to repeat play and scrutiny, is every fight can be dynamic and totally different. There's no, you can use cheese, you can use repetitive combos, but you cannot, and they generally feel the best. And even then, things can go wrong within those combinations. You have to reset an entire section sometimes in some of the harder difficulties if one fight doesn't go how you need it to go. That being said, by sort of punishing the player for exploration, by adding more fights, by not making it so that once you kill a room, it's dead forever. I feel like it really encourages some alternative, but ultimately outstanding moments in Ninja Gaiden. And it's something that I know that there's a lot of talk, and I'm going to take a quick aside here. I might be one of the few creators right now that is making content for Ninja Gaiden currently, and you know what, I don't particularly feel out of my depth here when I say that if they do decide to remake this, it's so important in my mind, after playing this 6 or 7 times in the last year or so, to really pay homage to the fact that as you're exploring, there are moments that are simple, they're casual, they're not burdensome to do, and then there's other moments where you're tested and you're punished for looking for more, to try to find more, to come back to areas filled with stronger foes than you've maybe ever seen, brand new fights. It's like, imagine going back to the first room in a game and there's a boss waiting for you. In many ways, I think Ninja Gaiden captures whatever that means, whatever that experience is. You're always being tested, and it's really important in my mind that the design team, if they decide to remake Ninja Gaiden, which, I mean, why wouldn't they? In today's market, it really just comes down to the fact that they need to really pay attention. It's not about the areas. It really isn't. It's not about how Ryu looks. I mean, it is really about how Ryu looks. It's not just about the weapons. It's not just about some of the enemies, the key enemies. It is so much to do with gameplay. It's so much to do with level design. This whole area opens up for the rest of the game. We're always coming back here. This is an important area. They can do a lot with it, but ultimately, when we return, things are changing, and they're changing for the worst. Things are getting dire, but we're getting stronger. And it's just a perfect game. It really is so good. And thank you for my review as I talked over the projectile section. You might have noticed that in Ninja Gaiden I was throwing shuriken to see how long it takes to kill enemies with shuriken at those ranges. The answer was no. Use the bow. We can see in Ninja Gaiden Sigma we did get the Nunchaku far earlier than we got in Ninja Gaiden, and now we essentially have, and in Sigma Plus, of course, similarly soon, we're going to essentially have access to 4 weapons in Ninja Gaiden Sigma and Sigma Plus, of which I would arguably say, or sorry, 5 if you count the wooden sword. We have access to about 3 highly, I would say, like, really usable ones, and then 2 of probably the best weapons in the game, as opposed to Ninja Gaiden, where we have the Dragon Sword. So, not that this section is particularly hard, but, I mean, it does make a difference. Now, we're about to come up to a massive shift in the map. I'm interested to hear what other people have to say about this, but what we're essentially going to be seeing is that they closed off and kind of remixed the map a little bit for Ninja Gaiden Sigma and Sigma Plus. So on our left, if I can draw our attention, as soon as the door opens, to the left, you'll see there's an opening in Ninja Gaiden Black, that is closed off in Sigma Plus and Sigma. In Sigma, I had no idea it was closed off. But in Sigma Plus, I made special attention to the fact that it is fully closed off. And around the corner, we do see the Nunchaku are there, as well as the red door. Now, I don't particularly think that this has a profound effect on the flow of the rest of the game, but I mean, it is something that begs the question, why? So I would love to hear some people's thoughts as we continue through this series to some of the changes. It's always fun to think about what's happening, but one thing I really wanted to point in on that I thought was really interesting, that I totally forgot as I was playing, was in Sigma right now, we're battling the Ninja Spider Clan, the Spider Ninja Clan, the Spider Clan Ninja, some combination of the 3 words. The character models, or the enemy models, for those those NPCs, those bad guys, has been changed in Ninja Gaiden Sigma. They originally were just brown-garbed ninja, if I'm not mistaken, who throw deadly explosive shuriken. But to create cohesion as they were working on Ninja Gaiden Sigma and Ninja Gaiden 2, and I guess it's Sigma 2, and then of course we've got I guess it's just Ninja Gaiden 2. There's no Sigma 2. It would be Ninja Gaiden 2 Sigma again. Anyways, moving on. Basically, Ninja Gaiden 2, they use character models for the ninja. They're an important enemy for the second game, the Spider Clan, the Black Spider Clan. What ends up happening is that they went back into Ninja Gaiden when they were making Sigma and updated the character model so that it was more cohesive, I think, with the enemy that you'd be seeing in the future parts. Sigma and 2 were much closer together, obviously, than either Black or the original Ninja Gaiden. We do get our first sort of shop visit. We do get to be introduced to Murmasa's shop in Ninja Gaiden Sigma. And if I could take a moment now to talk about some of the explosive shuriken and my grief with them. They're cheap, they're horrible, and they require considerable amounts of experimentation to not get completely trounced. These are, in Ninja Gaiden Black, we're about to fight the Black Spider Clan, and they're going to be just absolutely wrecked. I guess it's sort of a dark gray is their cloak. You see that I blocked the shuriken. That time, again, deflected with a well-timed block. There'll be other times where it does connect. There is an AoE effect to those explosions, so you really have to separate yourself from whatever wall it ends up on. And on top of that, if it does connect with you, you can use invulnerability frames in a roll to roll out of the explosion. And all of that is an example of how this game really pays respect to the original in a modern setting, in a modern context. We've got, a 3D battle arena where it's hard, but there's invulnerability frames and little tactics that you can use that the game either intentionally or unintentionally gives you in a way that I think really pays respect to the original Ninja Gaiden itself and how hard and brutal and cheap it was. But once you mastered it, you felt like you'd accomplished something distinguished. I, in particular, I'm not good at the original Ninja Gaiden, but funny enough, one thing that I totally missed was there's a clock tower that we passed. At one point, it was ringing in this run, and I totally forgot about this clock tower. And it's actually connected to an important secret in Ninja Gaiden that unlocks the second and third, if I'm not mistaken, second and third games on the NES. There's an arcade, a secret arcade in Ninja Gaiden where you can unlock the original games for it. Some really interesting things came out of that at the end of the game because I decided I wanted to see if I could show off that footage, and yeah. I'll save that. That's some foreshadowing. We won't go into it too much, but I will say that you had to shoot an arrow at the clock, and that's how you essentially unlocked one of the games. Feel free to look it up. It's on GameFAQs, GameFAQs.com. Not a sponsor. Moving on. So this section in particular will open up the most. It hints at the fact that we're going to need more later on, that we're going to be returning here. There's a door that has a giant crack in it. Only select things can break it open. We're also going to be seeing a locked gate, which I mean could just be a placeholder essentially for a invisible wall. Like, who cares? But it will eventually circle back, as the map will in its final chapter end up back in the Great Bridge Square. I don't want to spoil too much, but this also will become a very important room in Sigma and Sigma Plus. and not at all connected to Ninja Gaiden Black. Another huge change. A really interesting thing about the Lunar, now that I'm recognizing that it's on the character's back in Ninja Gaiden Black as he's near the door, is that the fully upgraded Lunar can break those as well. I think it has a lot to do with timing. You basically have, I think it's heavy weapons, and a explosive shuriken around the same time. So I guess because it supplies you with that weapon, you don't have to buy it. It gives you that. Not too sure what the thinking was, but the Lunar can break those at a later point in the game when it's fully upgraded. We did come across, I believe, a journal entry in Ninja Gaiden. Maybe two, I think just the one. The scarab locations seem to have lined up pretty well. And we are starting to get into kind of a saturated inventory where we're getting kind of filled up on healing items, and Nimpo replenishing items are... I typically like to use those just for score reasons, but beyond that, we see that we're kind of getting a little full up on stuff. But that's all right. A lot of these items will persist in the game world as we continue through the runs. And we are definitely fast approaching what is most embarrassingly a long stretch of time where I search around for things in Ninja Gaiden, in the original Ninja Gaiden. So we'll get there when we get there. Let's see if there's any other items here that I can point to. What was really great about making this part, guys, was I had no crashes. I used a different software. It helped expedite so many of the processes. It was a bit of a learning curve. A lot of the things that I've gotten accustomed to weren't there. Had to figure out alternatives and, adapt to a new interface. But at the end of the day, the editing software here came in clutch and allowed me to really expedite this. The one thing that generally holds back these videos has got to be the voiceover. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it's got to be worth your time in some way. So I do appreciate you guys for tuning in and keeping with the project and keeping up with it and watching this video if you've gotten till now. We still, of course, have a little bit of runtime left, but this has got to be one of the more interesting sections where I had to decide, do I speed up the footage or do I cut it out? Place your answers now. Essentially, my final answer became, I want the transparency to be very high. I want as little cuts as possible. I want the viewer and myself to both be on the same page, to have seen the same things, to have experienced the same things. So essentially, what's going to be happening now is I'm going on a small shopping spree in Ninja Gaiden Sigma, carefully going through the prices of each item and documenting it in a spreadsheet. That is a complete lie. And in Ninja Gaiden, I'm basically backtracking to ensure that, okay, I've got every single thing. I haven't missed anything. It really helps reduce the amount of backtracking at later parts, especially because a lot of it is committed to memory. We have a full save screen. That is great. Wow. Ninja Gaiden is sped up, and still we have enough time to show you what the Ninja Gaiden Sigma save screen is. And we can see how kind of slow it is for loading and saving when you can compare that to Sigma Plus. Or even, I think, in Ninja Gaiden itself. It is a slightly bigger game, though. So Sigma, I believe, is right about to say, okay, we're moving on to the next area where we're going to have an absolute banger of a difference. They add a new enemy. There's a repurposed voice line. It's crazy. We're fighting black ninja spider people. All right, different models depending on the game you're playing. And that's a complete lie. So listen for Ninja Gaiden Black. This is going to be an important line. He's going to approach the door, and there's a bodyguard. You have a ticket for the party? But you're going to need one to get in. Do you have a ticket for the party? So there's a guy at the door, and you need a ticket. Well, how do you get a ticket? Hans Bar is offering a ticket to all paying customers. I'm like, oh, I have to go buy an item? What is this? Now listen, in Ninja Gaiden Sigma, what they do with the same section. Keeping in mind that I now have to go on a shopping trip in Ninja Gaiden and Ninja Gaiden Black. Do you have a ticket for the party? Oh, it's too much. So and then there's guys on motorcycles, and one of the more frustrating enemies I had to encounter in Sigma. I wish you could see the original footage of me absolutely losing it on the. I suck. I couldn't take these guys out. I had no idea how to take them out. They're like worse versions of the horse enemy. The motorcycles can hurt you if you get too close. At least it's a fight, right? At least it's a fight. That's the only thing going for it, right? At the very least, we're not forced to go on a shopping trip, but of course, I'm missing out on what has got to be one of the another crazy difference. In Sigma Plus, it's already accomplished it. Ninja Gaiden's right about to. There's an Xbox logo. We've got the windmill shuriken. I'll get another crack at it in just a second here. In Ninja Gaiden Sigma and Black, they'll be more closely connected. But we see that the Xbox logo will fully replenish our health and Nimpo. It's like just a secret in the game that sort of is intended to be found. It's deceptively difficult to do that jumping section. You'd be surprised how often you will be messing it up. But we see in Ninja Gaiden Black, we have just gotten the windmill shuriken, one of my favorite projectile weapons. I love this weapon. I get to show off some cool combat actually with it in some of the coming up sections. But for obviously, I don't want to say copyright reasons, but for obvious reasons, Ninja Gaiden, Sigma, and Sigma Plus get rid of the Xbox that's just sitting in their game. And instead allow you to go to it's sort of a placard, if you will, that does the kind of the same thing. At the same time, though, it adds an additional audio effect, if I'm not mistaken. The Team Ninja kind of logo effect plays. Really wish I had been ready to show that off, but I think there will be at least one more time where we'll see it. I won't spoil anything. So right now, this is kind of an interesting part in the sense that there's nothing to show in Sigma and Sigma Plus, and right now this is essentially what the level shapes up to be, the chapter shapes up to be in Ninja Gaiden and Ninja Gaiden Black, is we're now backtracking to Hans Bar to get a ticket. And that's pretty much it. We have to refight like an enemy, I believe. I think now we get yes, now we get ambushed by the Black Spider Ninja Clan. So it kind of extends the chapter, but not necessarily for a good reason. Let's see if I can pull off some cool windmill shuriken plays here, or show off how deadly the incendiary shuriken is when used on a incompetent player. So yeah, so I was kind of surprised. Sigma does make some good design decisions, and Ninja Gaiden, like the original, rarely made bad ones, and Black made even less. But this one in particular, when compared, it's like, oh, it kind of works out. It kind of makes sense. It really does, to me, seem like an important change that's in the game. So we are definitely fast approaching the end of the chapter. There will be, I think, one more cutscene comparison. And that'll be pretty much it. One of my so many good cutscenes. I can't say it's one of my favorites because I like so many of them. But in particular, the scene where we're about to about to meet Rachel for the first time it's gotta be one of my favorites. It's so cool. Just the love and care they put into the pre-rendered cutscenes. And they tell their own story with so much atmosphere and poise. So we're going to be introduced to our first non-human enemy, I guess. I mean, we've been skirting the line with like bad guys like Dynamo, but this in particular is a fiend. And you'd think this is a boss or something, but this becomes a pretty common enemy in the game. A pretty fun enemy to fight. And if they were going to remake it, I think the fiends are what really they need to stand out. One thing you'll notice is that, like, I think there's some sort of smoothing going on in parts. Or it could just be, like, stuttering is, like, built into that cutscene, and there's just different parts where it's going to stutter no matter what. This is where it required heavy editing. I think this is the last in-game cutscene for the rest, and will be kind of how we close off this chapter. I wonder what they were trying to focus in on that shot. But that being said, yeah, Ninja Gaiden Sigma is being every single jump cut, every cut has frame drop. So this lining up as what it is like kind of like a series of very invisible frames are being taken out of Sigma to keep it in line with the other three, and I'm not sure why that is, but could be a recording issue. I am doubtful of that. But we are now introduced, of course, to some of the more important exposition, some of the things we need to kind of set up. Rachel, of course, will Spider-Woman her way out of this situation. And, you know, sometimes it's just fun to appreciate the updated visuals. You know, they definitely put some work into the character models, and it shows. I'm trying to remember this character's name. Gamov? Anyways. Some of the characters in this are a little simplistic. This guy being one of them. I wonder if he's a good guy or a bad guy. Who knows? And then he just falls off the side of a building, and he vanishes like a ninja. So that pretty much wraps it up here, guys. That was Chapter 4. Compared, ton of fun. Sitting down and finally doing the final recording. This is going to be my last video of the year. I wanted to make sure to get this out before the new year, and I have a special surprise for those of you who maybe haven't played Sigma. Enjoy. See you at the next part.